The afternoon sun cut through the glass windows of Montgomery Innovations, casting sharp shadows across Natalie Brooks's desk. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, the quarterly marketing report growing line by line. Around her, the modern office hummed with quiet efficiency, but Natalie existed in a bubble of concentration. 3:15 p.m. 3 hours until freedom. Her phone shattered the silence. Riverside Elementary flashed across the screen, and ice flooded her veins. This is Natalie Brooks. Mrs. Brooks, this is Nancy from the nurse's office. Emma has a high fever and she's been vomiting. You need to come get her now. Natalie's gaze snapped to Lucas Montgomery's corner office. Through the glass walls, she could see him gesturing sharply at 3 men in expensive suits. His dark hair caught the light, his custom suit perfectly pressed, his presence commanding even from a distance. In 18 months, she had never seen him smile, never heard him laugh. The other coordinators whispered he was made of ice and ambition, that he had built a billion-dollar empire by never showing weakness. I'll be there soon, Natalie whispered, already reaching for her purse. She stood outside his door, watching him through the glass. Her palms were slick with sweat. Emma needed her, but Lucas Montgomery needed perfection, and leaving early was anything but perfect. She knocked. He held up one finger without looking at her. 5 minutes crawled by before the suited men filed out. Lucas didn't glance up from the papers scattered across his massive desk. Come in. Natalie stepped inside. The office smelled like leather and expensive coffee, the city skyline stretching endlessly behind him. Mr. Montgomery, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have a family emergency. My daughter Emma is sick at school. The nurse says she has a high fever. I need to pick her up right away. The words tumbled out too fast. I know the quarterly reports are due today, but I can finish them from home tonight, I promise. Lucas finally looked up. His green eyes were sharp, analytical, dissecting her like a problem to be solved. He leaned back in his leather chair, fingers drumming silently on the armrest. How often does this happen? What? These emergency calls? How often do they disrupt your work schedule? Heat rushed to her face. Emma is a healthy child, Mr. Montgomery. This is only the 2nd time this year. I'm a single mother. Sometimes these things are unavoidable. Lucas stood and walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back. The silence stretched until Natalie thought she might scream. Finally, he turned. I have a proposition for you, Miss Brooks. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. What kind of proposition? Lucas crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. You need flexibility. I need someone I can trust completely, someone who understands sacrifice and responsibility, someone who won't walk away when things get difficult. I don't understand. I'm offering you a different position. Not as my marketing coordinator. He paused, and something flickered in those cold green eyes. As my wife. The world tilted sideways. Excuse me? A business arrangement, Lucas continued, his voice steady and clinical. Marriage in name only. You and your daughter move into my house. I provide complete financial security, the best schools, health care, everything you could need. In exchange, you manage my personal life, accompany me to social events, and help me maintain the image I need for certain business dealings. Natalie's heart hammered against her ribs. You can't be serious. I'm always serious, Miss Brooks. You get stability. I get convenience. We both get what we need. He walked closer, and she caught the scent of his cologne, something dark and expensive. Your daughter gets a father figure, proper medical care, and a future without financial worry. You get to stop choosing between being a good mother and keeping your job. This is insane. This is practical. His voice dropped lower. Think about it, Natalie. When was the last time you slept without worrying about money? When was the last time you could take Emma to the doctor without checking your bank account first? She wanted to slap him. She wanted to walk out. But God help her, he was right. Why me? She whispered. Something dark crossed his face, gone too quickly to identify. Because you're the only person in this building who looks at me like I'm human instead of a bank account. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened. Go get your daughter. Think about my offer. I'll need an answer by tomorrow morning. Natalie turned to leave, her mind spinning. Miss Brooks. She looked back. Lucas stood silhouetted against the windows, the city sprawling behind him like a kingdom. For what it's worth, I always keep my promises. The words should have been comforting. Instead, they sounded like a warning. Emma's small hand felt hot in Natalie's as they walked through the cramped apartment that night. The fever had broken, but Natalie's mind was burning with Lucas Montgomery's impossible offer. Marriage, business arrangement, financial security. She looked at the water stains spreading across the ceiling, the ancient refrigerator that wheezed like it was dying, Emma's worn sneakers by the door. The ones Natalie had hoped would last another month. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. Attached is the contract. Let me know if you have questions. Natalie opened the document at midnight after Emma had finally fallen asleep. 47 pages of legal terms that boiled down to a simple transaction. Her life and Emma's in exchange for playing the role of Mrs. Montgomery. Separate bedrooms. No romantic expectations. A substantial monthly allowance. Full medical coverage. College fund for Emma. And a clean exit clause after 3 years with a settlement that would set them up for life. It was cold, clinical, perfect, and it was more than she could give Emma on her own. The next morning, Natalie walked into Lucas's office at 8 a.m. sharp. He was already there, of course, reviewing documents with that intense focus that seemed to consume him. I have conditions, she said without preamble. Lucas looked up, and something that might have been respect flickered across his face. I'm listening. Emma comes first. Always. If she needs me, I leave. No questions. Agreed. I'm not some trophy you parade around. I want to keep working. Use my skills. If I'm managing your life, I'm doing it my way. Fair. And this stays between us. Emma gets to believe this is real. She's 6 years old. She doesn't need to know her mother sold herself to give her a better life. Lucas's jaw tightened. This isn't selling yourself, Miss Brooks. This is a mutually beneficial arrangement. Call it whatever helps you sleep at night. Natalie stepped closer, holding his gaze. One more thing. You hurt my daughter in any way, emotionally or otherwise, and I don't care how many lawyers you have. I will destroy you. For the first time, Lucas smiled. It was small, barely there, but it transformed his face into something almost human. I believe you would. He stood, extending his hand. Do we have a deal? Natalie looked at his hand, at the man offering her an escape from the endless cycle of barely surviving. His eyes held secrets, old wounds carefully hidden beneath layers of control. She shook his hand. His grip was firm, warm. We have a deal. 3 weeks later, Natalie stood in the master bedroom of Lucas Montgomery's estate, unpacking her meager belongings, while Emma explored her new room down the hall. The house was enormous, all clean lines and expensive furniture, more museum than home. This is your space, Lucas said from the doorway, making her jump. I'm in the east wing. We share the main living areas, kitchen, everything else. But your bedroom is yours. Private. Where's your room? The question came out before she could stop it. Far enough away that you won't hear me. Its expression was unreadable. I work late. I wake early. You'll barely notice I'm here. That's sad. Lucas blinked. Excuse me? Living in a house this big and being alone all the time? That's sad. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. I chose this life, Miss Brooks. Every bit of it. It's Mrs. Montgomery now, she corrected softly. At least for the next 3 years. Natalie, then? When we're alone? Lucas, she replied, testing his name on her tongue. He turned to leave, then paused. Emma asked me if I like pancakes. Do you? I don't remember the last time I had pancakes, and I guess you'll find out tomorrow morning. Natalie crossed her arms. Fair warning, Emma makes them shaped like dinosaurs. It's non-negotiable. Lucas's lips twitched, almost a smile. Dinosaur pancakes. I'll adjust my expectations accordingly. That night, Natalie heard footsteps in the hall around 2 a.m. She cracked her door open to see Lucas standing at Emma's doorway. just watching her sleep with an expression that looked almost like longing. When he noticed Natalie, he straightened immediately, the mask sliding back into place. "I was checking the house," he said stiffly. "Lucas, it's okay to care about her. The contract doesn't forbid basic human emotion, doesn't it?" His voice was bitter. "Everything in my life is a transaction, Natalie. Even the good things. Especially the good things." He walked away before she could respond, disappearing into the dark hallway like a ghost. Natalie closed her door and leaned against it, her heart racing. She had married a stranger to save her daughter. But looking into Lucas Montgomery's haunted eyes, she realized he might be even more broken than she was. And that terrified her more than any contract ever could. 6 months into the arrangement, Natalie had learned to read Lucas Montgomery's silences. The silence when he came home late and stood in the kitchen watching her and Emma bake cookies. The silence when Emma grabbed his hand at the park without thinking. The silence when he found Natalie working in his study at midnight, her face illuminated by the laptop screen. But tonight's silence was different, colder. Lucas sat across from her at the dining table, his untouched dinner growing cold. Emma had gone to bed an hour ago, and the house felt too large, too quiet. "There's a gala next week," he said finally. "The Riverside Foundation charity event. We need to attend together." "Of course. That's part of the arrangement. Richard Blackwood will be there." The name meant nothing to her, but Lucas's jaw was tight, his knuckles white around his wineglass. "Who is he?" "Someone from my past." Lucas's voice was flat. "Someone who knew me before I was Lucas Montgomery, tech billionaire. Before I built all of this." Natalie waited, sensing the crack in his armor. "He'll try to hurt me, Natalie. That's what he does. He finds the thing you care about most and destroys it. Can handle myself." Lucas's laugh was bitter. "That's not what I'm worried about." Before she could ask what he meant, his phone rang. He answered with a curt Montgomery. Then his expression went completely blank. "I understand, yes. Tomorrow morning." He hung up and stared at his phone like it was a weapon. "What happened? Nothing that concerns you?" The walls were back up, higher than ever. "Lucas, we live together. We're raising Emma together. Whatever this is, it concerns me." His voice cut like glass. "That's where you're wrong. This arrangement doesn't make us family, Natalie. It doesn't make us real. It's a contract. Nothing more." The words hit harder than they should have. Natalie stood, her chair scraping against the floor. "Then I guess I'll remember that." She walked away, ignoring the way his eyes followed her, ignoring the apology she thought she heard him start to say. The gala arrived wrapped in champagne and false smiles. Natalie wore a black dress Lucas had bought her, diamonds at her throat that cost more than her old apartment. She played her part perfectly, laughing at the right moments, touching Lucas's arm with practiced ease. Then Richard Blackwood appeared. He was handsome in a cruel way, with silver hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. He approached them like a shark scenting blood. Lucas Montgomery, or should I say, Lucas Brennan. Natalie felt Lucas go rigid beside her. Blackwood. And this must be the lovely Mrs. Montgomery. Richard's eyes crawled over Natalie. "Tell me, does she know the truth? Does she know what you did to get here?" "Careful," Lucas warned, his voice deadly quiet. "Or what? You'll destroy me like you destroyed everyone else?" Richard leaned closer. "Does your wife know you built your empire on stolen code? That you betrayed your best friend and business partner, left him with nothing while you took everything?" Natalie's blood ran cold. "That's not true," she said, but her voice wavered. "Isn't it? Ask him about James Brennan. Ask him what happened 7 years ago. Ask him why his own brother won't speak to him." Lucas's face was stone, but something shattered behind his eyes. "We're leaving," he said, gripping Natalie's elbow. "Running again, Lucas? That's all you know how to do." They left amid whispers and stares. The car ride home was suffocating silence. Lucas drove too fast, his hand strangling the steering wheel. In the house, Natalie finally turned to face him. "Is it true?" "Which part?" "Any of it." "All of it." Lucas poured himself a drink, his hand shaking slightly. "James Brennan was my brother, my partner. We built the company together from nothing. He was brilliant, creative, everything I wasn't. Happened. I made a choice. His voice was hollow. The company was failing. James wanted to stay true to our original vision. I wanted to survive. So I took a deal behind his back. Sold our software to a corporation for millions. Changed the code, locked him out, made it look like he'd stolen from us. Natalie felt sick. You destroyed your own brother. I destroyed the only person who ever believed in me, and I built an empire on his corpse. Lucas drained his glass. That's who you married, Natalie. That's who's been living in this house with you and Emma. A man who chose money over family. Why are you telling me this now? Because you deserve to know the truth before you make the same mistake my brother did. Before you trust me. He looked at her, and his eyes were dead. I'm poison, Natalie. I ruin everything I touch. You should take Emma and leave while you still. Ken, the contract has 2 years left. Pay out the full settlement. Tonight, just go. Natalie stared at this broken man who had given her everything while believing he deserved nothing. She thought of Emma sleeping upstairs, of the way Lucas read her bedtime stories in different voices, of how he'd learned to make dinosaur pancakes. No. Lucas's head snapped up. What? I'm not leaving. Neither is Emma. You don't understand what I'm telling you. I understand perfectly. Natalie stepped closer. You made a terrible choice 7 years ago. You hurt someone you loved to survive. That's not who you are now, Lucas. I see who you are now. Now, you see what you want to see? I see a man who stands at my daughter's door at night making sure she's safe. I see a man who's terrified of being human because the last time he loved someone, he destroyed them. Natalie's voice broke. I see someone who's punishing himself more than anyone else ever could. Lucas turned away, his shoulders shaking. You should hate me. Maybe I should. But I don't. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning neither was ready to name. Lucas's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and his face went pale. What is it? He showed her the screen. A news article, published minutes ago. Montgomery Innovations built on stolen technology. Exclusive interview with James Brennan Blackwood. Lucas whispered. He's been planning this. He must have found James, convinced him to go public. This will destroy you. This will destroy everything. Lucas looked at her, and for the first time, she saw real fear in his eyes. Including you and Emma. The scandal, the lawsuits, all of it. I'm so sorry, Natalie. Before she could respond, headlights swept across the windows. Car doors slammed. Voices shouted from outside. The press had arrived. And Natalie realized with sinking certainty that the life they'd built, fake or not, was about to shatter completely. The cameras outside flashed like lightning through the windows. Reporters shouted questions that cut through the walls. Emma's small voice called from upstairs, frightened by the commotion. Stay here, Lucas said, already moving toward the stairs. No. Natalie grabbed his arm. You deal with the press. I'll handle Emma. She found her daughter standing in her doorway, clutching her stuffed dinosaur, eyes wide with fear. Mommy, what's happening? Why are there people outside? Natalie scooped Emma into her arms, carrying her away from the windows. It's nothing, baby. Just some work stuff for Lucas. Let's get you back to bed. Is Lucas in trouble? The question struck deeper than it should have. Natalie thought of the broken man downstairs. The one who believed he poisoned everything he touched. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. Emma. And sometimes they have to face them. But he's not leaving, is he? He promised he'd teach me chess this weekend. Natalie's throat tightened. In 6 months, Lucas had become essential to Emma's world. Not because of the contract, but because he'd let himself care, even while believing he shouldn't. Keeps his promises. Sweetheart, always. After Emma fell back asleep, Natalie found Lucas in his study, surrounded by lawyers on speakerphone. The news had spread like wildfire. James Brennan's interview was devastating, methodical. Backed by evidence Lucas couldn't deny, the lawyers were already drafting statements, discussing settlements, calculating damage control. Lucas sat silent through it all, his face carved from stone. When the call ended, he looked at Natalie standing in the doorway. She asked. The board wants me to step down. The stock is plummeting. There will be lawsuits, probably criminal charges. His voice was empty. Everything I built is gone. What about James? Can you talk to him? Why would he listen to me now? I destroyed him 7 years ago. This is justice. Lucas stood, walking to the window. The reporters were still outside, vultures circling. You should file for divorce. Distance yourself from this. I'll make sure you and Emma are protected financially, but you need to leave before this destroys you too. Stop telling me to leave, Natalie, please. He turned to her and his eyes were raw with pain. I can't do this if you stay. I can't watch you and Emma get torn apart by my mistakes. Then don't watch. Fight. Fight for what? I'm guilty. Everything they're saying is true, so make it right. Natalie crossed the room, standing close enough to feel the heat of him. You can't undo the past, Lucas, but you can face it. You can talk to James. You can tell the truth yourself before they twist it into something worse. The truth will end me. Hiding will end you. The truth might save you. Lucas looked at her like she was speaking a foreign language. Why do you care? This arrangement was supposed to be simple. 3 years, then freedom. Why are you fighting for me? Because somewhere between dinosaur pancakes and midnight conversations, you became more than a contract. The words stuck in her throat. Because Emma believes in you, and I won't let her watch another person disappear from her life. It was a lie. Or maybe just part of the truth. But Lucas's expression softened, cracked, revealed something vulnerable underneath. I don't deserve you.
Probably not,
Natalie said. But you're stuck with me anyway. The next morning, Natalie woke to find Lucas gone. No note, no message, just empty space where he should have been. Panic clawed at her chest until she saw the news. Lucas Montgomery had called a press conference. He was telling everything Natalie watched on TV as he stood before a room full of reporters, his voice steady but raw. He confessed to stealing the code, to betraying his brother, to building his empire on someone else's ruin. He announced his resignation from Montgomery Innovations, the dissolution of his board seat, and his intention to make full restitution to James Brennan. I can't undo the damage I caused, Lucas said, his eyes finding the camera. But I can face it. I can tell the truth. And I can spend the rest of my life trying to be the man I should have been 7 years ago. The reporters erupted with questions. But Lucas walked away without answering. He came home that afternoon to find Natalie and Emma in the kitchen, making cookies. Emma ran to him, wrapping her small arms around his waist. I saw you on TV. You were very brave. Lucas looked at Natalie over Emma's head, his eyes asking a question he couldn't voice. Emma, why don't you take the cookies to your room? Lucas and I need to talk. After Emma left, the silence stretched between them like a chasm. James called, Lucas said finally. He wants to meet.
It's good.
That's a start. He's not the only one. Lucas's hands shook slightly. My mother called. I haven't spoken to her in 5 years. She said she's proud of me. For telling the truth, Natalie's heart twisted. Lucas. Blackwood sent me a message too. Said I surprised him. Said most people would have fought, lied, destroyed evidence. He said, I chose honor over survival. Lucas laughed bitterly. He sounded almost disappointed, because he wanted you to become the villain. Maybe I already was. Natalie crossed the space between them, standing close enough to see the exhaustion carved into his face, the weight he'd been carrying alone for so long. You're not a villain, Lucas. You're just human. Flawed and broken and trying. I've destroyed everything. The company, my reputation, even this. He gestured between them. Whatever this arrangement was supposed to be, maybe it was never supposed to be an arrangement. The words escaped before Natalie could stop them. Lucas froze, his eyes searching hers. What are you saying? I'm saying that somewhere in the last 6 months, this stopped being fake for me. I'm saying that when I watch you read to Emma, when I see you trying so hard to be good, when I hear you walking the halls at night because you can't sleep." Her voice broke. "I'm saying I care about you, Lucas Montgomery. Not your money, not your status, you." Lucas's face transformed, hope and fear warring in his expression. "Natalie." Then his phone rang. He looked at the screen and went pale. "It's my lawyer. The district attorney wants to press charges? Criminal fraud. I could go to prison." Floor dropped out from under Natalie's world. "How long? 5 to 10 years? Maybe more." Lucas's voice was hollow. "I need to turn myself in tomorrow morning." Emma's laughter drifted from upstairs. Innocent and bright, unaware that the man she'd come to, love as a father, might be taken away. And Natalie realized with devastating clarity that she'd broken the first rule of their arrangement. She'd let herself fall in love with a man who might be lost forever the morning Lucas was supposed to turn himself in. Natalie woke to find him sitting on the edge of the bed in the guest room, staring at the sunrise through the window. "You didn't sleep," she said softly. "I kept thinking about Emma, about how I promised to teach her chess this weekend." His voice was raw. "About how I'm about to break that promise?" "Break her, Lucas. I should never have let this happen. I should have kept my distance, stayed cold. Now she loves me, and I'm going to disappear just like her father did." Natalie sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. "Her father chose to leave. You're choosing to face what you did? Those aren't the same thing. They feel the same from where she's standing." The doorbell rang. Lucas stood, straightening his suit, preparing for the lawyers, the police, whatever came next. Instead, James Brennan stood on the doorstep. He looked like Lucas. Same sharp features, same green eyes. But where Lucas carried weight like armor, James looked lighter, freer. 7 years of distance had carved different paths across identical faces. "James," Lucas breathed. "Can I come in?" They sat in the study where Lucas had made the call that destroyed his brother's life. The symmetry wasn't lost on any of them. "I watched your press conference," James said. 3 times, actually. I meant every word. I'll give you everything. The company, the money, all of it." "I don't want your money, Lucas." James's voice was steady. "I never did." "Then why did you do the interview?" "Why now?" "I didn't." Lucas froze. "What?" "Blackwood came to me 6 months ago. Offered me money, revenge, everything I should have wanted. I told him no." James leaned forward. "That interview he published? I never said those things. He fabricated it using old footage, deepfakes, edited conversations. I only found out yesterday when I saw the news." Natalie's mind reeled. "Then why didn't you come forward immediately?" "Because I wanted to see what Lucas would do. Would he fight? Would he lie? Would he destroy the evidence like he destroyed our company?" James looked at his brother. "You confessed to everything. You took responsibility for choices I'd spent 7 years resenting. You chose truth over survival. I ruined your life. You made a terrible decision under impossible pressure. We were 26 years old, desperate and terrified of failing. I've spent 7 years hating you for it." James's voice cracked. "But yesterday, watching you stand up there and break yourself open for the truth, I realized something. I forgave you a long time ago. I was just too proud to admit it." Lucas's face crumbled. "James, I've already contacted the district attorney. Told them the interview was fake, that I'm not pressing charges. I've also contacted your board. Blackwood has been removed. His assets are being investigated. You're being reinstated, Lucas, with conditions?" "Yes." "What conditions?" "We rebuild the company together. 50-50 partners, like it should have been from the start. And you go to therapy, deal with whatever drove you to burn down your life rather than ask for help. I don't deserve this." "No, you don't. But I'm giving it to you anyway." That's what brothers do. They stood, and after a moment's hesitation, embraced. 7 years of anger and grief and loss poured out in that single gesture. After James left, promising to return the next day to start planning, Lucas turned to Natalie. His eyes were red, his face stripped of every defense. I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay. Natalie stepped closer. Say this is real now. Not an arrangement, not a contract, real. Natalie, I'm a mess. I've spent 7 years running from myself. I've hurt everyone I've ever loved. Then stop running. She took his hand. I told you 6 months ago that I saw who you really are. I still see it. Someone worthy of love, even if you don't believe it yet. Emma loves you. Really loves you. Not because you buy her things or give her stability. Because you read her stories and make pancakes and promise to teach her chess. Natalie's voice broke. Because you're her dad in every way that matters. Lucas pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. I'm terrified I'll ruin this too, and we'll ruin it together. But at least give us a chance. He pulled back, looking at her with those sharp green eyes that saw everything. This isn't the arrangement we signed. No, this is better. This is more dangerous. I know. Natalie smiled. But I'm done playing it safe. Lucas kissed her then, soft and desperate and real. Years of loneliness and fear poured into that kiss, and Natalie kissed him back. Tasting salt from tears she couldn't tell were his or hers. When they broke apart, Emma was standing in the doorway, grinning.
Oh.
Does this mean Lucas is staying forever? Lucas looked at Natalie, then at Emma, at this family he'd stumbled into while trying to survive. If you'll have me, we're a package deal, Natalie said. Both of us, or neither of us. Then I guess I'm staying. Emma launched herself at them both, and they caught her laughing. Through the window, the sunrise painted the sky in shades of gold and pink, and for the first time in 7 years, Lucas Montgomery believed he might deserve this, not because he'd earned it through success or money or power, but because he'd chosen truth. He'd chosen to be human. He'd chosen love over fear. And that, Natalie thought as she held her strange, broken, beautiful family close, was worth more than any contract could promise. 6 months later, Montgomery Brennan Innovations launched its first project under the brothers' joint leadership, a software program designed to help single parents find resources, childcare, and support systems. They named it Emma's Place. Lucas stood at the launch event. James on one side, Natalie and Emma on the other. The press took photos, asked questions, marveled at the reunion of the infamous brothers. But Lucas only had eyes for Natalie. For the woman who had seen past his armor to the scared, lonely man underneath, who had refused to let him destroy himself, who had chosen him when he deserved it least. Thank you, he whispered, just for her. For what? For asking to leave early that day? For forcing me to make an impossible offer? For staying when I told you to run? He squeezed her hand. For saving me. You saved yourself, Lucas. I just refused to let you do it alone. Emma tugged on Lucas's jacket. Can we get dinosaur pancakes after this? You promised. Lucas lifted her onto his shoulders, laughing. I always keep my promises, remember? As they walked away from the cameras and the lights and the expectations, Natalie looked back one last time. At the empire built on broken foundations, now being rebuilt with honesty and love. At the second chances they'd all been given, she thought of the scared single mother who had walked into that office 9 months ago. Desperate and alone. That woman would never have believed this ending was possible. But then again, the best stories never go according to plan. They're written one honest moment at a time. By people brave enough to risk everything for the chance at something real, and this story, messy and imperfect and beautifully true, was just beginning. The end.